Well, thanks for coming and attending Molly's conference. We're going to go over some test scores that we've been administering throughout the year. Everything goes really well. She's progressing amazingly.
Good.
She's definitely ready for fourth grade and even at higher levels of that. We were just going to go over a few things. There were a few areas, nothing of too much concern, but just a few areas that we might want to touch on a little bit more and see what we can do to get her progressing appropriately. The first thing that we wanted to go over was our FAST testing, which when we say fast testing, a lot of kids get nervous because they think, oh my gosh, an assessment. It's more of a screening than anything. And so it basically shows us as the teachers where the students are at, if they need supports. It shows their literacy development. And so if they need these supports, then we can put them in place right away. So for the first one, these are words correct per minute. And so she scored as 132 and the benchmark was 91. So she's well above benchmark there. Over here, she's still at 132. So she didn't really make any progress, but she also didn't lose any progress when the benchmark was 115. So that's still really, really good.
Okay.
And then over here, she made about 30 point jump.
Nice.
So, and then the benchmark for that is 130. So she started off really strong. And then she made a bunch of progress towards the end of the year, which if, like I said, if she's making progress, she's making progress. We're taking the steps in the right direction there.
Good.
And then we have the reading accuracy here. And as you can see, 99% all the way across the board, which is amazing. She's at the independent level, and we have it at 3 different levels: independent, instructional, and frustration. And so she is so close to 100%. So if we could just get her up there to that 100%, that would be awesome. So they, in the FAST testing, they are given a passage, and it's a cold read, which I don't know if Molly's told you about that or not.
No.
But it's a reading that is given to them that they've never been familiarized with before.
Okay.
So it's brand new to them.
Okay.
So it's nothing that they can refer back to and be like, oh, I've read this before.
Can't memorize it.
Exactly.
Okay.
And so they're expected to read the passage to me, and I follow along and I make little tick marks on there, and I track along with her. But yeah, like I said, it's used to determine whether or not they need those interventions. And obviously Molly's doing fantastic and she doesn't need those interventions.
Okay.
So we're looking good there.
Okay.
And then we're going to move on to the Iowa assessments. I'm sure you're familiar with that. They've been around for a while.
Is that like Iowa Test of Basic Skills?
It is, yes.
Same thing?
Yep.
Okay.
And so what they're doing is they're tested on not just reading and vocabulary here. They're tested on everything.
Right.
But we're just going to focus on the reading and vocabulary scores here.
Okay.
So to be proficient, the scores for reading need to be 170 to 208, and she's at 204, so she's almost 2 above proficient, which is awesome.
Wonderful.
And I have no doubt in my mind that she's going to get to that above proficient mark next year.
Awesome.
For vocabulary, she's at 202, and to be proficient in that, you need a 172 to 208. So still looking really, really good. So about
Awesome.
7 points away from above proficient.
Good.
Yes, so then we're going to move on to the BRI, which I don't know if Molly's talked to you about or not.
No, she doesn't tell me about any of this.
It's called the basic reading inventory. And so it's given individually to the students, and what it's doing is to basically assess the reading level and see where they're at.
Is this like the FAST testing or Iowa assessments?
It is and it isn't. I mean,
Okay.
all of them are used to kind of see where they're at in terms of this.
Uh-huh.
The FAST screening is to tell us what kind of interventions they need. This one is basically to tell us what they need to focus on more. And so this goes more in depth, and it's
Okay.
looking to see if they're able to identify their sight words and identify and correct their errors. That's something that we really, really want them to learn how to do, is to notice if you're reading along and you see that you missed something, to go back and correct that. So that's something
Okay.
that we really want to focus on. She
Okay.
does a great job of that.
Mhm.
Although this is our area that we're having a little bit of a hard time with.
Okay.
Nothing too concerning, like I said, but the benchmark for her fluency is 99 words correct per minute. She's at 95.
Okay.
She's 4 points away.
So she's almost there.
She's very, very close.
Okay. So
Um,
if I read with her at home, will that help that?
Yep. And that's
Okay.
what I have a bunch of strategies over here that I'm going to send home
Perfect.
with you guys.
Thank you.
And then for the winter time, the benchmark was 120. She was at a 122. So she was 2 points over. So that's still good that she's above benchmark.
Good.
But we would definitely like to see her up a little bit farther. We know that she has that in her. So that's something that we definitely want to see. And then in the spring, she still made a bunch of progress, about 23 points here. The benchmark was 137 and she was at 145. And so
Good.
she was above benchmark, but like I said, we want to see her way above benchmark like we know she can be.
Okay.
What this shows me is that with her being on the low, not really the lower end, but you can see at the beginning of the year, she was below the benchmark for words correct per minute.
Right.
I'm thinking that she's taking a little bit too much time identifying her sight words rather than automatically saying things as she's reading them. And so I have a list here of sight words that I'll go over with you that she can work on over the summer.
Okay, yeah.
So then we're going to move on to the accuracy. She does amazing at this. She is able to look at this and know exactly what she's saying, what she's reading.
Okay.
Although, like I said, in the fluency here, it takes her a little bit of time. She's able to figure it out, though. She's at 97, 98, 97%. So she's still at the independent level, which is nothing to be concerned about. But like I said, if we can get her up a little bit farther, we can do that.
Okay.
And then comprehension. This is probably the area of most concern here. She's at a 75%, which is at the frustration level. It's below the frustration level, which is 89% below.
Okay, so accuracy and comprehension, what's the difference?
So the accuracy is to basically see if they're able to identify the words on the page.
So they're reading it correctly.
Exactly,
Okay,
exactly.
okay.
And the comprehension is to see whether or not they're understanding the material that they're reading.
Okay.
So you can,
Gotcha.
we can go through and we can read something with no problem, but whether or not we know what we're reading is something different.
I understand. Yeah. Perfect.
And so she's at 75% for the fall and winter, and we want her at least to that 90%.
Okay.
To be at that instructional level.
Okay.
And like I said before, I think she's just focusing a little bit too much on trying to identify those sight words rather than getting the material and understanding what she's reading.
So if I'm reading with her at home, which we read together quite a bit, should I be asking her questions?
Definitely.
Okay.
Something that we really like to do is at the beginning of a story, we like to do this thing where I show them the front of the book. So let's say this is the book, and it has a picture of something on it. I like to go around and I like to ask the kids what they think the story will be about. And I kind of write on the board what their inferences are. And after that, we read a couple pages. I ask them to see if any of them would like to change their answer.
Okay.
We go back and we change it. And then throughout the book, we like to ask questions like, what do you think is going to happen next? Or, so how did this make you feel? Or what happened when so-and-so did what? Just questions like that to kind of get them thinking back and thinking ahead as well.
Okay.
So we don't want to always focus on what we just read. We want to make those inferences and try and see if we can figure out the rest of the book, to see if we can use those context clues to give us the ending of the rest of the book.
Okay, perfect.
One thing, too, at the end of the book, definitely ask her questions about what she just read and what her favorite part was and what did this character do when this character did this and things like that to get her mind going and get that comprehension at this level that we want it to be at.
Okay, I can do that.
Awesome.
All right.
So then we're going to move on to the DSA, which is the Developmental Spelling Assessment. And it's basically a spelling test. A lot of the kids just know it as a spelling test. And it's made up of four levels. The first one is letter name. The second one is within word, syllable juncture, and derivational constancy. You don't have to memorize those, I promise.
Okay.
So in the third grade, by the end of third grade, we want them to be at a syllable juncture level 8. Well, right now, she is at the derivational constancy level 5, which is almost at a grade 6 reading level.
Oh, wow.
Or spelling level, I should say.
Wow.
So she is well above benchmark here. And one thing that I really like about the DSA is that rather than stopping kids at one point, once they're done with one level, they move right on to the next one and right on to the next one. And so they're not stopping, and we can keep them going and we can keep them advancing even though they're
challenging her.
Exactly,
Okay.
exactly.
Okay, so why is she spelling so well but not reading as quickly as we want her to? What's the difference there?
You know, I think whether or not this is the case or not, I'm not quite sure. But what I'm thinking is that in her spelling test, she's able to think about the words. She's able to sound them out. Whereas a lot of these, we have them timed. And so she can't always stop
It's
and
too
say
fast. It takes her a while to figure it out.
Exactly.
Okay.
So she can't just sit there and sound out and do this and do that. She has to quickly move on. And so when she appeals to me, which is when she kind of looks to me and is like, Miss Clark, I need this help, I can either give it to her or I can ask her to try it herself. But if it takes too long, then we do like to move on, just so that way we can try and get to that comprehension level as well.
So the spelling tests are not timed?
Nope, they're not timed.
Okay.
And what we do with this, I mean, it's basically just to figure out if they can identify their long and short vowels, consonant blends, arc controlled vowels, prefixes, suffixes, stuff like that.
All the stuff I don't remember.
Exactly. So we like to do those things. And when she masters one thing, she goes right on to the next and right on to the next. I mean, she's almost 3 grade levels ahead of what she's
That's amazing.
at. So
That's
she's
awesome.
doing really, really well.